Hey, what's going on, everybody? And thanks for joining me again. Today, we are doing our first installment of a whole new segment here on the Rethink Tank channel. And we are now no longer pointing out all the problems around us because, as my good friend Jon Astacio over here always pointed out to me, we need to start offering solutions. You know, we get in these situations where it looks like there's no way out, and we need to start offering people those outlooks and perspectives that can give us strength and abilities out of these situations. And so now we'll pose a question or a problem that is amongst us in our community, and we will also propose and wrestle with the solutions on how we get through these situations. So for today's conversation, we are going to be discussing student loan forgiveness. This is a very common topic in politics today. And the question begs, where we have a mass of student loans that seem almost impossible to get from under, what does the community owe these people? Because not everybody has these student loan debts, and should everybody's taxes go to paying them off? So, Jon, let me volley it to you, and then I'll kind of develop my answer. But do you have any solution to this problem that poses in front of us?
The problem is, right, that student loans, majority of people have them because we bought into the system of having to go to college so that we can get a good career and all that fun stuff. So I would say one of the solutions is make sure you really need to go to college. Like, educate yourself on your freaking options, because there's so with internet, and I'm not sure about crypto as much now, but it's still going. I am a believer that it's still coming around. There's a lot of opportunity to just make money online, and with a lot of society just, I would say, falling apart, with between systems falling apart and belief in the system, I believe that a lot of the money in the future is going to be in blue collar work, just because
100%.
you meet somebody and you think more rational, you're more down to earth, you're closer to your neighbors, and it's all about keeping the system alive. So think about it, the system's falling apart. Why don't we put more energy into maintaining the system? Because the corporations are pretty much here to profit off of the people that are maintaining the system. And those corporations are slowly falling apart. And a lot of the college courses are set up for you to just move on over to the corporation. So yeah, that's my solution, is really, really look into something that's more system oriented, blue collar work, and look into online businesses, because there's a lot going on there too.
Hey, you got a great perspective there. We're definitely going to be going online. That's definitely where we're being pushed. Laying some groundwork to what I think kind of the problem is facing us totally is, first off, why I don't just support writing a blank check for student loan forgiveness. Okay, you have people that went to college. Of those people, some of them are paying their loans off.
Yes.
That is a huge detriment to your problem to begin with. That means some people had foresight and a plan, and the plan's paying off. So the question is, do you punish people that had foresight and went to college for a reason? Not because it was the next step after you turn 18, not because mom and dad told them they had to, and they didn't know what true major they wanted, but at the end of the day, you knew what you wanted to do, you went in with a plan, and the plan succeeded, and you were able to pay those loans off. Now you're going to go and pay a check to the ones that couldn't. All right, I'm going to say it for this one time in the whole this little segment here, and then we'll move on. It won't be said again. But the only reason this is a problem is because your gender studies course is not paying off your loan, and too many of you have a degree that doesn't pay off your loan. So here we are sitting in a place where all of us are sitting around going, wow, I got duped. Gender studies isn't a job. And yeah, you got duped. So let's talk about the heart of the problem here. There is a massive program backed by the government, but also just by corporate investors, that is duping you. right? College is a scheme at this point for at least the vast majority of you. For the doctor and the lawyer that is truly going to go down that path and planned on it from the start, college is the move for you. But do you know how many people I saw in law school that were like, wow, I had an orchestra degree and I really just didn't know what to do with my life. So here I am.
Oh
and then they struggled in law school and you were like, well, you're a directionless buffoon. So, and that's not an anomaly. That's the world we live in today. So again, my part of the problem, what do you do when you look at the citizen that goes, wait, I paid off my loans and you're not going to even reimburse me? So major problem. You're only rewarding people that are defaulting on contracts. You're rewarding bad behavior. So how do you even expect that behavior to be deterred? Now, aside from all of that, let's get to the heart of the problem, the contracts themselves. And that's kind of where the basis and foundation of my position is totally. You have these contracts that are being made with 18-year-olds, oftentimes 17-year-olds. So think about this. If you're going to tell me, if I go to law school and they say, for it to be a contract, all of these things have to be met. All of these considerations, definitive terms, I could go on down a list of all these things that need to be met for it to be a contract. One thing that voids a contract at its infancy immediately is a contract with a minor. Why is that? Because there is an understanding by the law through policy that they do not have the capacity to contract. Okay? So if that is a foundational basis to all contract law, which is a major sector of law, law is a million little fields, and one of the major fields is contract law. And the basis of it is you need to have the capacity to enter into that contract. So we have multi-million, if not billion-dollar companies under the guise of academic-loving institutes are making money off of minors and trapping them into contracts that are preposterous.
Hold on.
I mean, at this point, insane.
What if I
$200,000 for, again, your gender studies degree? I mean, come on now. And what was college when it was first created? It was the collection of the meeting of the minds where we can all come together and grow. But it wasn't something that was an expected, it wasn't a prerequisite to operate in this community. Before it was for the rich, the comfortable. You would already be settled in your career, and then you'd go, all right, well, now I just want to expand my brain and wrestle with ideas, so I'll go to college. But college has become this prerequisite to even become a player in the market sector. So I want to wrap up my point with a major thing that Jon said. The money is going to be in blue collar work moving forward. And here's what's laughable. What emphasizes my point on how these contracts are traps and they're just a ruse and a scheme that aren't necessary for you to succeed in life. Jon, I'm dumbfounded by how many people I went to law school with or went to college with that are carpenters, that are electricians, that are landscapers, and they're making bank. Why?
they're doing
because
good.
all of us got caught in the ruse. So there's nobody doing these jobs. These jobs make solid money. And so now people are coming out of college and they're like, well, you're telling me all I can get is a manager at Ava Center and I'm going to be making 40 grand, or I can just put a little elbow grease, get some exercise out in the sun and cut some lawns and I'll be making 3 to 4 times that, or develop a landscaping company that I own at the end of the day. And now I've got a passive income and I'm making bank. Oh, they didn't teach me that in that academic scheme that this was a possibility for me. And now I'm sitting here with, my thumb on my ass going, well, wow, I've got all this debt and no way to pay it off. So my answer is it starts with the contracts. These contracts are void. And guess what? We need to stop saying us, the plumber, the mechanic, and me and you. We all need to foot the bill with half of our paycheck. It's cut in half every 2 weeks for our taxes. And those taxes should not be paying for this. You know who it should be? Those multi-million-dollar, billion-dollar companies, institutes that are profiting off of these contracts. You made the money. You made the money off of a faulty contract. The bill's on you, baby.
Interesting. What about now you're saying make the contract, or you're saying that one of the major issues is you're making a contract with minors. Well, what do you think would be the correct way to do it if you're going to still continue with it? Because let's say the scenario of somebody that, you know what, you hear these awesome stories of somebody that, you know, their parents just did not support them. They moved out, they're on their own, they're a minor, but because of at a young age, they had to grow up, and they're one of the few that are still in their teens that are mentally ahead of the rest. They go to college, they make it happen, they find a job. So how would you handle that person needing maybe a cosigner that's not a minor? That would be my question.
No,
on
you
how that would work.
let's get to the heart of the point. There is kind of a big, you know, one big fault in the position that I pose is that the line of capacity is 18. That is the line. And so if you're signing that contract at 18, the law says you have the capacity, right? And if you are a minor at 17, you have a co-signer who's a parent who's acknowledging their responsibility. The question then begs, how much is that parent under the same ruse, right? That they got kind of duped the same way. Also, let's just acknowledge the human element to the hard line of 18. Nothing changed from 17 to 18. So they're just as much of a prey to this kind of scam. But I think there's multiple approaches to this. I think the first thing that I presented is that if anybody's footing the bill, it's the people that made the money. It's definitely not the blue collar guy who decided to never go to college and his taxes are going to pay for your gender studies degree. That just ain't it. So we need to focus on, if anybody's footing the bill, who really should do it. It's the people that profited off of this. But you do raise a good point. Technically, if you got a co-signer, or even more so, if you're over 18, these are very legal contracts. So maybe the pivot then becomes the social narrative, our approach to this whole thing. We need to start being realistic. If you don't work hard, pay your dues, again, you don't get to just be some 20-year-old millennial walk into an office and go, this is how it's done. I learned in college. You're not allowed to use these terms and you got to look at this way and da, da, da. And it's like, no. What we've broken in universities is the reality check of the workforce. Now the workforce is curtailing to PC culture, all these social rules, all these things come in and bully the workforce. Whereas when we were in school, we were being told, oh, the rude awakening, just wait until you have a boss. They're gonna really bring in. And then, so part of this is a major social problem. We need to start having realistic conversations. One, with pointing out who the true problem is, the institute itself. Now we're starting to look at it in the right lens. All right. They're coming to get your money, and they're trying to sign you for money that you may not be able to pay off. And even if you do work hard enough to get a situation to pay it off, right? Will you be able to pay this amount? It's grand enough that even if you have a job, and then you can't complain about it at the end of the day. So think about if this is the right thing. You know, back to the heart of the point, it used to be people across the spectrum of ages would go to law school or would go to college. That's what law school was for me. You'd have most of the people were older, trying to reinvent their career. Not the minority were people that went straight from college into law school, because that's what the heart of academics used to be. And graduate school still kind of reflects that. But college is it's like a rite of passage, like Rumspringa for, Amish people. You've got literally every kid goes off at 18 and they drink themselves silly and they get into sexually promiscuous situations and they learn and they grow and they mature. And then then after that is when the real growing
Which
comes, right?
is the huge selling point in the movies, right? I want to go to college for education, right?
Yeah,
Education.
yeah, exactly. I'm going for Animal House, but it's for the books, Dad. So again, now we've got an expensive ticket to the party more than anything else. And the real growth and maturity comes from those years following it, whether it be grad school or the professional sector. The growth happens when the tire needs to hit the pavement, right? You are forced to be the bird pushed out of the nest egg, whereas college is still that little nurturing, hey, you're a big girl now, but no, we still kind of coddle you. The professors still look the other way, and here's an extra credit, write me a paper on this, and we'll get you there. And that was all of it. That was the whole life, because again, they know you're kids. So the narrative needs to be, you go to college when you got a plan and you know what you're doing. And that plan, that step is a stepping stone to the final or next chapter. Like you can't be just doing and going, well, we'll figure it out. I got 5 majors and I didn't like them, but guess what? I had fun. It's like, no, I think it starts with the social narrative. We need to police ourselves.
I see a plan, an awesome idea as part of like the essay process. And I feel like my adult self is thinking about my teen self, and I'm saying, oh, we need a plan. Meanwhile, my teen self is like, come on, I don't want to write a plan. But it's like forcing you to do something to think ahead instead of, I mean, and also too, I was um privileged to, or lucky to go to a school that had the option for you to get help with planning what you want to do. And a lot of times people just don't do that. And it's not even available. So this whole planning ahead is awesome. And then the whole idea of the the blue collar jobs and stuff. I see people like working for a little bit to get a feel for what they want to do. This should be like an intermediary thing,
Yeah.
right? Like, hey, you want to try this? You want to try that? You want to try all these things? Why don't you go through the spectrum of working these different jobs? And I mean, they call that internship, but you don't get paid for that, and it's free work.
That's
So
another scam.
yeah. Free work under the guise of internship. But I think you brought up a lot of good points, and it is very true. A lot of people go to college just because it's what you do. A lot of people are making decisions because of it's what you do, not knowing what they want to do or how they're going to go about it. And so they go to school, and now their parents are like, what are you going to, what college you want to go to? Just worry about what college and getting in, get good grades, be disciplined, be a good boy, be a good girl, so that the big companies, the big colleges will accept you. It's all about being accepted. And what about the power in the person to make a choice? I'm choosing to be in debt to you, right? And I feel like the tables are turning, because more power of hopefully is going to be going to the people to choose where they're going to put their money. Especially nowadays, people are really tight right now with what they spend, and I'm pretty sure colleges and degrees and stuff is going to slow down, because not too many people are going to be able to afford or be willing to get into that debt for companies that seem to be falling apart right now. So I see that natural move into blue collar work anyways, except for those people that like the whole family's a dentist, the whole family's doctors, the whole family's lawyers, the whole, like if you were bred through your family and you want to do what your family does, which is awesome because it's just embedded in you and you truly want to do that. Yeah, I totally see that happening for those people. So I just see more options right now, and more time to plan, and just more options to make money. And some people are like, hey, if this online stuff doesn't work out, I'm going to go to college, type of thing.
I think, you know what, something that I didn't really hammer enough that you've brought up kind of twice now that I think is a great point is there's so many other ways to diversify.
Yeah.
And that is the American dream. and we've lost sight of it entirely. I don't know if we've fallen asleep or what, but the reality is this is the beautiful place of an open capitalist free society like this, is that there's always a way to get a dollar. Now, there's also a dangerous road to walk down. I'm not one to advocate or encourage your tunnel vision on just chasing the dollar. That's kind of, I think, the scam of America, is that we trap people into that mentality and then they're never happy. I think we need to redevelop community. I think, you and I have that talk all the time, whether it's our food source or whatever. We need to redevelop our community. I think a heart to that is when they broke down and dissolved our nationalism, just made nationalism and loving your neighbor racist. It's a sad place to be, but I think that's where it starts. When we look at families that push their kids to go because that's just the next step, kids that need to go because, again, that's just the next step, or they don't know what to do, so they think they'll figure it out there, or they think it's going to be a fun party, so hey, we'll just figure it out. But in all those instances, I think a strong community structure is the type of anecdote that'll help remind people of all the different avenues you have available to you and all the opportunities this place offers. And so when you look at the problem in front of us, we've got student loan debt that kids can't pay off. Obviously, the beginning, the solve to that is nipping it at the bud at the beginning. Before you put that pen to the paper, do you know what you're doing? And that means, what are we learning here? The answer to that question, do you know what you're doing? That answer cannot be coming from your high school. It cannot be coming from the colleges. It needs to be coming from your nuclear home, the friends around you, and your neighbors. We need to start having these conversations going, all right, but there's some really good, the guy up the street, he could use some help building houses. Maybe you take some time to figure it out, make some money on the side. I mean, I got a buddy who didn't know what he was going to do. And we all went to college, and he worked electrical lines with his dad. And he would make fun of us like, you guys are all getting scammed, whatever. And then he really didn't have much direction. He didn't know what he was going to do with himself. He was kind of, getting a little sporadic with his life as well. So he went to the military, and he goes off and he's been living in Hawaii for the last 5-6 years. But now, next year, he's coming back. He's going to get free college. He's going to go to college. So again, no debt. Man paid his dues, lived misery, also sacrificed himself so you and I could have these conversations comfortably. So that person could go to the center of town and picket and call for student loan forgiveness. Yeah. He sacrificed himself, his blood, for your ability to do that. You know what? That pays for college in my book, right? I think that's beyond fair. So again, here, he made fun of us. This wasn't his path, but now he's found himself on that path. But it's paid for. It's also at the appropriate time. And he's matured enough now to where when he settles in his niche, it'll be exactly what it was supposed to be. Something that totally perfects his skills and what interests him. Versus, while I'm still trying to figure out and the hormones are figuring itself out in my brain, I'm just going to throw myself into geometry because that was a strong course for me. And then at the end of the road, I'm like, well, I'm stuck being a math teacher or nothing now. Crap. So take your time. Talk to the people around you. Know that there's more doors open to you. That the internet's here, baby, as Jon said. And I really do think real estate is going to be where the money's at moving forward. So there's all these new avenues around you. You could play the scam of the stock market. I totally think that's a manufactured fake casino, but you can always hop on there and roll the dice a couple times. And again, the doors are open to you here in a beautiful place like America. Talk to the people around you, but know the decision you'll be making and the long-term effects, because I ain't footing the bill and neither is my neighbor. Jon, do you have any wrapping thoughts for this solution to student loan forgiveness?
Actually, I think I was about to say you pretty much wrapped it all up. You summarized it, you brought it to a good close. So I don't think I have much more to provide because you summed it up, and I'm on the same page with you on that, man.
Cool. Well, guys, I appreciate you letting us get your ear. If you enjoyed this conversation, if we made you think, send this out. The best thing you can do to support the Rethink Tank is share this link. Otherwise, you can check all of our content at our website at www.rethinktankpodcast.com. Check out the Rethink Tank podcast where we get into deeper conversations such like this. Jon, where can they find you?
newagehuman.com. There's also a YouTube channel, the New Age Human. But I'm working on making sure that it's just easier. Just go to newagehuman.com and then it will direct you. We're also on Rumble too. So and Instagram at Jon Astacio Astacio. Yeah.
Perfect. Check me out at Grgat57. And otherwise, guys, we'll check you on the next one. Peace.